The colloquia on sweat proves the importance of art, which tackles difficult subjects and truly touches people. Such art would not exist without those with a real passion for theater. I try to look where the passion for theater, and passions in general, may stem from.
Thank God! Sorry I missed you on Friday. Of course, it was snow and ice, so I was nice to sleep in.
My first thought was that so much of our lives are shaped by our early education. So we asked former elementary school music teacher, theater director, and Sacred Heart's own Professor William Finley on his experience with music education.
I taught K through 9 through the Archdiocese of Hartford. Did that for a couple of years. They hadn't had any music programs. And so I got hired to teach at 3 different schools just to get them to where they had a music program. And it was a tough go because one place I had a classroom. The other 2 had to travel to the classes themselves. So I had to have a little bag of musical instruments, a little bag of recorders, my auto harp, sometimes my keyboard, depending on what day it was. It was a nightmare. So my impression of the music program was really bad.
Underfunded and neglected, practically a consistency for music programs throughout the country. What is the student's perspective, though? I asked a friend of mine, a musician, Michael Freire, his impression of music classes he took not so long ago.
I mean, like, we always had music classes, but none was really focused. It was kind of like just random, like, banging on the xylophone and stuff like that. I don't know.
My feeling was the same. All of elementary school, we were shuffled into a music room where very little was learned, and music seemed neither more nor less appealing at the end of the day. Everyone grows up and has a musical taste, but rarely do we hear someone credit a 3rd grade music period before recess for it. Professor Finley became a musician, has traveled the world performing in a choir, directed countless plays. Would he say that music class was vital in his development?
They helped me along the way, but I don't think that had anything to do with it. My first solo in church was when I was 5 years old, and I sang the 5th verse of We Three Kings of Orient are. That was my first public performance. So I just love to sing. So I think it's experiencing music is more important than basically learning.
This now begs the question of music class's importance. It clearly does not seem to grab kids the way it intends, and most people see little to no influence on themselves from such a class. I then asked Professor Finley if music education can at least throw a log on the fire for someone interested, and what happens in the absence of effective education.
So you definitely say there's people who would be great performers, but because they didn't have a music class pushing them over the edge, they maybe didn't get fully into it.
Yeah, they couldn't go as far as I wanted to go. There's some theater people I've taught, and that's their problem. They'll never, they might know 1 or 2 Broadway songs. They might be a great actor or anything, but it's like learning to dance. You can't dance. You got to learn how to dance if you're going to be in a show. If you don't really know what you're doing, I used to teach people, and they came in with certain musical aptitude. Now I have kids come in like to sing, but they can't read music. And so they do everything by rote, or they do karaoke, or they buy a soundtrack and they learn it. They use a lot of their voice to try to achieve what they could have done if they just learned to read. It's that old adage where if you can give a person a fish and they feed them for a day. If you teach them how to fish, they can feed themselves for the rest of their lives.
Music classes are failing kids. They bore the ones who aren't interested, and even the ones that aren't equipped with the proper skills when they get to the next level. They may spark a slight intrigue or compound upon existing investment in music, but truly fail in effectively teaching kids about music and roping kids into being musicians. However, it cannot be understated how music in any classroom will lay the proper groundwork for someone's future. In spite of his lackluster impression of music in school, Professor Finley still believes music should be taught at a very young age, and the reasoning goes well beyond music theory.
Like these little songs that we learned about how many days are in each month, and there's all that stuff, and little songs that sort of teach you things. You learn the words and it teaches you little things, and they're very important socially, culturally. You learn a lot about your culture from songs, so there's a certain cultural aspect that's important. Then learning about people from all over the world is a great way to teach people about things. You learn all these little songs as early as possible. I'd say kindergarten and learning little songs and little cannons and things like roll, roll, roll your boat gently down the street. Those little things so kids can hear how the parts fit together.
Even Michael, who was sick of banging on the xylophone for 45 minutes, admitted that music class can be an effective gateway into a more musical, creative world.
To understand and make music, you need to be a very creative person, which is not something easy to come by, and like, you know, being able to have like an outlet for creativity, you know, gets people's and kids' like brain kind of going.
As with much of our education, we can rely on schools to set the groundwork, but must take matters into our own hands for a passion to truly grow. It is important to find out for ourselves and discover our own path to something genuinely meaningful.
So ignorance is very bad. You don't ever want to be ignorant about a subject if you're interested in it. You don't want somebody just tell you, don't want me to tell you this is this, and later on you find out I was just BSing you. So
The motivation to be good at something must exist for someone to be just that. We drive for kids to get A's, when piquing their interest should also be a goal, but it isn't. Passions may be born in the school walls, but grow in the home.
and it's like that parable of the sower where you plant the seeds and some of them fall on good ground, some fall on rocky ground, some are in the thorns. So just plant the seeds and see where they go. Something influences them. It could be anything, you know. Who knows how we get where we're at? You know, it's just kind of strange. Like, I'm trailer trash from Alabama, and I ended up getting my doctorate from Yale, and I'm here teaching at Cycroft University. How did I get here? We're influenced by so many things in our life. And it doesn't, you can have a bad upbringing, you can have all kinds of, come from poverty, come from wealth, you can come from all different walks of life and still turn into all kinds of different things.
We don't know how anyone gets to where they are. Effective or remarkable groups of people tend to come from wildly different and diverse backgrounds who follow different paths to get to that place. The theater is no exception. Whether in class or not, a chord struck with the makers of Sweat and everyone in theater, which led them to that point. The takeaway is not that music class is worthless. In fact, it's important, just like any other class, to be a taste test to see what each kid is interested in. Digging deeper into something that interests you is how you find your passion, and in that lies something truly special.